Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so of course I like to talk about the Lakers in the morning before breakfast or during breakfast. I haven't started mine yet, so figured I'd get into it now. Franchise health is what's on my mind. Franchise health. Because in listening to certain people talk about this league, this team, I think their vision of a healthy Laker franchise is something totally different than mine. I think the most important thing for a lot of people is to improve the roster in front of them. Make this team as good as it can be so that Bron and AD can win this year. And that's a very, very reasonable, simple thought. It's simple, but extremely reasonable. However, when you're talking about franchise health, sometimes, if not a good portion of the times when you're in the situation this team is in, doing things that help the team in the short term hurt the overall franchise health. And that's been my argument. I always have that on my mind because I've watched so many seasons year in and year out thinking short term, let me get this team better, only to find myself, having supported moves that hurt the franchise overall health, and then having a whole nother season, hence the one we're in, where we're not able to do things we want to do or not be good enough as we want to be. And at some point in time, you learn to stop being short-sighted with the franchise. And that's what I bring to you guys when I speak about not trading picks. I understand that there's going to be a day where Bron and AD aren't going to be here. And while there's strong argument for going all in now because you have such valuable pieces and you'll never be able to replace them, I look at it differently. I have an inverted thought on that, just to say, even if I have a bunch of trash surrounding them to a degree, and no, trash is not what I want. If I'm in a situation where I have them in place, it's more likely that my franchise will be able to build my pick equity and asset equity and put the right stuff in place to build my team so that when they're gone, I can have a franchise that's attractive to other stars, new stars to come in. That was one of the biggest problems the Lakers have had when LeBron before he got here, after Kobe retired, was that we couldn't find any superstars to come in. Even before Kobe left, we couldn't get Carmelo to sign our deal. We couldn't get LaMarcus Aldridge to sign our deal. And I thought it was because our franchise wasn't very healthy, not to mention that their expectations surrounding the team were very high. And then we had somebody bad running the show at the time. So it's like at some point in time, you go through that and you realize, okay, the only way this team is going to be able to attract superstars after Bron and AD is if they don't neglect franchise health while they're here. And maybe there's an argument for, if you win right now, you're more attractive to people later and they'll come play with you. So you better do what you need to do to build the team to be better right now. But then you start looking at what the things you have to do are going to cost you, and you realize it actually hurts the franchise's health as it pertains to you having pick equity and tradable assets that can help you be better. Now, there are a lot of ways it can go that can negate my argument. Austin Reeves can turn into a superstar. That kind of stuff. You pick up an undrafted guy like Torrey and he turns into an all-star. There are a lot of different things that can fall into place, but what's the safest route for building your team's financial and tradable equity health, in my opinion, is to not further dig yourself in a hole when you're already in one. And that is why I support Rob not making any of the moves that I've been hearing about in terms of rumors. Because I think that a lot of what's going on for the Lakers is because people know we should be, in theory, thinking short term, and we have these two valuable pieces for which most of the league does not have, or would love to have. And we got the favor of the media always talking about us one way or another, whether bad or good. All publicity is welcome in this business. You got a lot of people who don't want to see you succeed, on top of putting a reasonable high price on any moves that you make based on the fact that you're at a disadvantage. So what I'm saying is, you are going to swallow a poison pill to do what it is that people want to do in the short term, because the market is set up and the environment set up for you to be fleeced or treated harshly to improve. Because not only is the market against you, but those who are running the market are also against you in a lot of cases. So it's like, if they can't benefit from your failure, then they don't want to contribute at all. If they're not putting you in a position to be further down the road hurt so that they can all rise above you, then you understand that they're not going to be interested. And so what I'm saying is this: the market itself is looking forward to a bottoming out Los Angeles Laker team. Fellow owners, they want us. It plays right into their narrative or their hands if we think short term for the sake of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It's exactly what the market wants you to do. It's us taking the cheese and walking right into the mousetrap. That's what it wants us to do, so that when they leave, we do everything we can to win right now. And then when LeBron James and Anthony Davis are gone, we will literally be the worst team in the league for a pretty long time. Unless we get lucky in some areas that are not good bets. My thing is, I'm defying that by looking at Bron and AD and saying, okay, they're in place to keep me at least relevant right now. And whatever they play with, they should, in theory, be able to drag to the promised land, because that's the proper way for us to look at ourselves in this environment. It's the proper way. We have what the rest of the league doesn't have. Bron and AD, 2 top 12 players. Facts. Nobody can say they don't want that. They can say that they prefer not to have that in the form of these 2 players, but the value from which those 2 players are worth, most teams, if not all teams, don't have that. So that's why it's so difficult for us to make moves versus everybody else, because we do have extremely valuable equity wrapped up in those 2 players, as to where other people have it diversified into other things. Now, you could say that teams are being able to make more moves, and they should, the Lakers should be able to make moves just like everybody else. But what you don't realize is, everybody else's don't have Bron and AD eating up so much of the value of what they're worth. So it's easier to break up 4 quarters than it is to chop $1 in 4 pieces. You understand what I'm saying? If I have them already in the form of quarters, then I could just send some out this way, bring it back that way, send some out that way, and bring it back a different way. And if those things happen to triple and quadruple in value, then boom, it balloons. And it's easier to see success when you have more diversified opportunities at having things multiply in value. With AD and Bron, you don't want to trade them. You want them to retire in your uniform, and they're eating up so much of that value. So you don't have as many quarters. You don't have as many opportunities to see something balloon in value, because all your value is wrapped up in those 2 massive tanks on the side. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, this is why you look at a team like the New York Knicks, and you saw them give away 8 and 9 picks to get like 2 players, OG Anunoby and Bridges, and say they can make moves. Why can't we? It's because if we want to trade Anthony Davis for 8 and 9 picks, we'll have that. We want to trade LeBron James for 4 and 5 picks, you'll have it. And then you could take 2, 3 picks and do all types of movement and then build whatever you can build. But at the end of the day, what those teams don't have, it's Bron and AD. Those big fish. And so for me, it's like, if I'm trying to hold on to these big fish to the side, you see what I'm saying? Not letting them get touched. And then another one of my best contracts, Austin Reeves, pulling that to the side. I don't want it to get touched. The rest of the stuff that I have is what I have to make moves. So I can argue the rest of our stuff may be the grand equivalent of like 3 picks worth of players. If you can get that, because some of the stuff that we have just hasn't ballooned. And that's why one of my arguments has been, we need to start improving our scouting department, not a scouting department, but our in-season scouting department, to help us with strategizing against these teams better. We got to improve our player development department. I was listening to a podcast. They were saying we don't have a head of player development. This is important to hire a person like that, Jeannie. You want that person in place. I second that point of view, so that guys like Castleton, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Max Lewis, Max Christie, Bronny James can develop to their highest level. Because if you're not helping yourself in that area, the little that you have, those 3 little picks worth of everything else, it's not going to bloom into being worth a little more, and you're still going to be in a space where ultimately you're going to be forced to trade one of those 2 big fish tanks, or whatever I call them, AD and Bron, so that you can diversify and then have more opportunities. You need something to balloon out of nothing, and it can't just be a bunch of stuff that you would push to the side next to Bron and AD. It has to be stuff you're willing to part ways with, and that's the problem. You got a guy like Austin Reeves you got in the 2nd round, or the undrafted pool. He balloons into something that's valuable, and now you push him to the side and say you don't want to move him. You see what I'm saying? You're further pushing yourself into a position where the little that you have is not going to be worth it in the market. You know, we always talk about having a no trade clause can often push people on the other side of the negotiation table into feeling as if they can use that against you because you have stuff that they can't have access to in negotiations. And then maybe that you have the privilege of being able to have more access to what it is that they have. This has that same effect. When you say, I'm not trading Bron, AD, and Austin Reeves, now people can say, okay, well, that's like having a no trade clause on all 3 of those players. I know you're not willing to move any of that, so give me 2 picks for anything you have, because I'm not taking back some of your better stuff. I'm not crippling you in any situation, because everything that's worth having, you're not willing to move on from. So it becomes a situation where it has that effect that I said a no trade clause has, because it's understood that you refuse to move this much of your value while still having access potentially to me parting ways with stuff that's of value. You want to make yourself better but by making me worse. And so that's never going to work in the negotiation process, and that's the problem with the Lakers. You got 3 untradeable assets, and then the rest of the stuff you have is not worth anything. 3 assets you refuse to trade, rather, and the rest of what you have doesn't even sum up to be what it is that would make anybody want it. You know, you got stuff on the roster, to be honest with you, that you haven't seen really play well. You got Gabe Vincent's bad contract. You got the one-way, constantly hurt talent of Vanderbilt. You got, like I said, these young players, Maxes and all these guys that haven't gotten a chance to show who they are, haven't developed very well. Jalen Hood-Schifino, you know, a draft pick that has not looked very good at all. So he looks like a bust. Unplayable kind of idea of what the market probably sees him as. You got Bronny James on a 4-year contract, and the overall environment surrounding him and how he looks like somebody who's not really an NBA player, but you still got him on contract. So it's like a lot of stuff. You're not going to move him, put him to the side as something else that you refuse to trade. It's like you're really pushing yourself into a position to essentially say, I'm not giving you picks. Put that over on the side over there with the tanks. I'm not moving on from my 3 picks. I'm not moving on from Bronny James. I'm not moving on from LeBron or AD. I'm not moving on from Austin Reeves. So all of this stuff is in the no trade clause category, and it's like, yo, anybody you go to the negotiation table with, they're like, so what am I taking back? Not to mention I don't like you, but what am I taking back that's going to actually make me feel like not only am I better in myself, but that you're actually getting a little worse, which is in my favor. And so the Lakers refuse to get any worse because everything that they have is either not worth anything or they refuse to part with. So you start talking about Rui Hachimura. Has he developed to be some grandiose player that is like worthy of me parting with something that you want? No. And what else are you offering? 2nd rounders? I can get that from anywhere. I can buy that with cash considerations. What else you got? Cam Reddish, you didn't even want him to opt in. Nobody wants him. What else you got? You know, you start talking about the stuff that the Lakers have, and you realize the best stuff that anybody would want, you've made off limits. So, if that's the stance we're taking, we're trying to hold on to all the best stuff and trying to give away trash, then we're not going to get anything in the market. And so the market is essentially saying, you can't do that. Give us your picks, cripple yourself if you want anything worth having. Cripple yourself to some degree if you want anything worth having. And the problem with the Lakers doing that is we've already crippled ourselves. Some. That's why we're holding on to the 4 things that are so valuable to us, because we've already crippled ourselves in a sense that we did the Russell Westbrook trade that ultimately put us in a position to give away good stuff and a pick for Russell, who turned into nothing. we were able to trade Russell for something, which helped us get back a little bit of value, but ultimately we end up having to give away another pick in doing that too. And now the stuff that we ultimately traded Russell for is worth crap too. Russell Westbrook was turned into D'Angelo Russell, an expiring contract that we're having a hard time moving for anything good. Vanderbilt, who, as I said, injury prone and only plays one side of the floor, not the good side of the floor for the rest of the league to think is attractive. And then Michael Beasley, who didn't play well and then ended up just leaving for nothing. We didn't get any value for him. And so it's like, you're not really seeing the value even manifest from that you made a trade to retain value. Because when you got that stuff, you didn't capture the value for that either. So it's like, when you really look at the Lakers situation, and then you got all these demanding heads who aren't taking a whole lot of this into account, telling you to make moves, the best thing the Lakers can do for the overall health, if they refuse to move on from this good stuff, is to not really do any of the deals that are in place that ultimately will demand that you cripple yourself to some degree. Because you are in a disadvantage, because there are two players that you want to see retiring in uniform eating up the most of your value. And then you do have this young player, this Austin Reeves, that you don't want to move. And you do only have 3 picks that are valuable to you because of the fact that you only have 3 of them. So you shouldn't be making any moves, because they're going to want you to either part with some of that stuff or basically give away the picks. You're going to have to part with something on that side of the fence, or the stuff that you don't want to move. That's the reality of it. In order to get something good, you have to give up something good. But if you're unwilling to give up something good, nobody's going to be willing to give you anything good. And because we're already in this disadvantage, the best thing for the Lakers to do, in my opinion, is to not swallow any of those poison pills. The lesser of two evils is standing pat and not being as good as you need to be. Why? Because if you do anything that further cripples you, you're still not going to be good enough to be as good as you want to be. But at least, if we let a year pass, we replenish more picks. Now you have more access to tradable picks when another year passes. Now you get past the year 25 where you don't have your own pick, which gives you the more of a flexibility to reset if you want to. This upcoming years, because we don't have a pick, making moves to make ourselves worse is bad. Making moves to make us short-term good may not be good enough, which could potentially leave you at a risk for being bad. You're probably best to stand pat and not move. Unless you want to come up off of something that can ultimately diversify more of your value into more opportunities to balloon. Which is why I said, if the Lakers are really serious about their overall franchise health, they will reset. You trade AD and Bron for picks. Now you can't trade Bron, but AD for picks, so that you can bring back more of a diversified amount of things that can balloon. Problem is, you don't want to do that, because now you're on the hook for LeBron James with a no trade clause, who essentially needs to win now no matter what. So it's like when you gave Bron that no trade clause, now you're stuck to AD unless AD wants out, as to which if he decides he wants to make a demand for trade, now you lose him for half of what his value is. So it's like the Lakers hurt themselves in so many different ways leading up to this point, to the best thing they could probably do for themselves is literally nothing. Literally nothing. Because if you give away them 3 picks for something that comes here and loses value, and Bron and AD go off into the night, however they do, maybe they demand trades, both of them, since they realize you can't get good enough. Now you're getting half of the price for them. That's further leaves you crippled. That's going to have a worse effect than the Russell Westbrook trade. Right now, you have all your good stuff. You don't want to move it. You got Anthony Davis and LeBron James ready to start the season. You don't have to really do anything right now necessarily. Now, do you want your team to improve this season? Of course. But the best way for that to happen is if the guys that you have that are not worth anything are showcased to a degree to where they can become something worth something. You need Dalton Connect to play well. You need Jalen Hood-Schifino to start being a player. You need Vanderbilt to be seen healthy again. You need Gabe Vincent to be seen healthy again. You need whatever you're keeping to be seen good. Otherwise, you're trading everything at a low value. Trading Jalen Hood-Schifino as a throw-in, further drawing away value. He was a 17th overall pick when you got him. You're going to trade him away at like a second-round pick. That's not what you do. I understand people are out on him. I also understand that it's a short-sighted thinking that would make it so that you would make a move upon being out on him. He has to develop to be better before we send him out, based on what it is I've already described. So it's like, these are things like, yo, if you're looking at the Lakers asset class and you're demanding that they do something to make themselves better, you got to understand that whoever's on the other side of the negotiation table willing to give you what it is that makes you better are going to demand you make yourself worse in doing so. So franchise health is what it is that's always on the forefront of my mind, because that's ultimately, when you zoom out, the only responsibility we have as a franchise. Because this is not about this season. It's about the ability to be good enough in the future as well as this season. And right now we have LeBron James and Anthony Davis holding us up while we're in this collapsed, disadvantaged position in every other areas, including with a rookie coach that's never coached a team before, rookie Bronny James, who's on a guaranteed contract but not ready to play basketball like that. It's a lot of stuff here that you need those two superstar tank big fish to just keep you afloat. And so trying to do something to make them NBA champions, it's not going to necessarily put you in a position to be very healthy. It's just going to make it so that you have another thing there that you need to keep better, and not enough other stuff that can actually make them better. You see what I'm saying? That's what's going to end up happening. You could try to trade your 3 picks for a player, and now you're out of the picks that allow you to undo that if it doesn't work out. You're out of the picks that allow you opportunity to have an influx of new talent coming into your situation, which are diversified opportunities for your value to balloon. Little quarters, you start giving those away for bigger dollars when you already have $4. You see what I'm saying? It's like you just really can't afford to. I understand those people who want the Lakers to make some moves so they can make this team better, and then we have this team being better. That's fine. But if you bring yourself a Jeremy Grant contract, now you got something that's potentially losing value because of its age. You see what I'm saying? So you bring him to you, you give up a pick or two to make Portland happy. Maybe you give up 1 pick. That pick is out. Whatever you traded away is out, including Rui Hachimura, who is still developing. Jalen Hood-Schifino, who starting the process of developing, things that are going to get better over time for something that's already in his prime. It's going downhill from here with a Jeremy Grant. Rui going uphill from here. Austin going uphill from here. Dalton going uphill from here. Jalen Hood-Schifino, Max Christie, Max Lewis, all headed upward because they haven't gotten to their prime. They haven't had their full development process realized. You're going to trade all that away for somebody who's on the other side going this way? When you got Bron and AD, your biggest fish, going this way? Nah, man. Nah. You got to see it that way so you know what to suggest for your franchise. Otherwise, y'all going to have some really, really bad years in the future when Bron and AD aren't there to hold you up, because you wouldn't have done anything that helped you. And you could try to retrade a Jeremy Grant 2 years from now. You're going to get half of what you traded for him. Half. Because he's headed downward, man. He's on the other side of 30 at that point. So it's like, nah. We ain't doing that. The only thing I want to give away picks for in a situation like this is stuff that I know is going upward. Because my core is going downward. Some of the stuff on my roster is not at all worth having. Cam Reddish, Jackson Hayes potentially, although I think Jackson Hayes is going up. What's the ceiling on that? Bronny James, how long it's going to take for him to develop? You know what I'm saying? The fact that we have him on a 4-year deal just leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth, really. I mean, it's just, you're giving roster spots, or you have roster spots and stuff that doesn't even move in the market. But the good thing about some of those things is that they will move in the market if you just don't give them away right now. You see what I'm saying? So what do you do in this moment? Well, you improve upon those things. Jackson Hayes, Bronny James, Dalton Knecht, Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, potentially Vanderbilt, Max Lewis, Max Christie, all these things, they have to improve in value as we stand here without making moves. They have to improve. That's it. And then when they do, you have more that you're willing to move that doesn't have to necessarily be pushed into that category of things that you refuse to move to get better. That's how you improve your overall health of your franchise. So, as I said, we got to get our player development situation in order. This is why I wanted Jeanie to hire a president, so that he can delegate all of the different divisions of responsibility to different people. You get yourself a Bob Myers, he'll hire your development head coordinator. He'll hire your scouting for, various in-season stuff that have people in different arenas scouting teams and when we're not even in the room. These are the type of things that a president is going to delegate. You can't have your GM doing all of these things. Our summer league team is not even functional. You have a guy for that. If your president's in place delegating all of that processing together. So that's why I want Jeanie to hire a damn president, man. Stop thinking that you can run this thing without one. Because you got certain things being neglected while you're focusing on things that may not be as important. Seriously. That's the reality of it. Our basketball team's not functioning properly, and because of it, we can't seem to get better in the areas that you're willing to trade. The guys that you're willing to move, they're not getting better. So if you really want to improve your franchise health while not willing to come off of those things that you were not willing to come off of, then this is what your focus needs to be. It's development. So that's what we're talking about, man. I just understand franchise health a little better than I think a lot of people do. And given the fact that the collective bargaining agreement continues to change in more, restrictive ways, in-house player development is your way out. Finding stuff out of nowhere, your Chores and your Austin Reeves, that's how you do it. You get those guys to their highest level, you make sure that they're developing properly, you showcase them properly, and then you move them for something that can balloon for 4 quarters. They turn into dollars, you move them for 4 quarters, and you build yourself back up from where you were before you started mortgaging picks away for Anthony Davis and mortgaging picks away to get and lose Russell Westbrook, and then letting guys like Caruso, who could go for a pick or two, walk out the door. Guys like Julius Randle, who ultimately became what it is he became, you let him walk out the door for nothing. It's like, that's a pick or two worth of guy right there. Like, look at all this value we let just disappear. You could have traded what's his name that we gave away, Kuzma, for a pick or two. You added him to a trade for something that ended up came back nothing, and gave a pick on top of that trade for the Russell Westbrook thing. So it's like, it's so much value we let dissipate into nothing. And then we have so much stuff that we want to delegate for our political reasons, and LeBron's son, and then we got him over here with a no trade clause. You got Anthony Davis, of course, you don't want to move. You got Austin Reeves over here, you don't want to move. You got 2 or 3 picks you don't want to move. It's like, yo, you're trying to hold on to too much while not making the stuff that you're willing to move on from any better. You could trade all that stuff when it's low and get back the few pennies that you're getting back, or the descending talented stuff that you can get back, or you can recognize that a few of those things are still ascending in value. A few of those things that you are willing to move are going to get better if you wait on them. That's the truth. In fact, a good portion of them, because they're young players, the stuff that we're willing to move, the Ruiz, the Maxes, Mac Lewis, Jalen Hood-Schifino, that stuff can get better. That's where your value is, but you can't trade it away while it's still seeds. You got to let it balloon. So where are we at right now? They're still seeds, right? All right, then don't move that crap. Wait until they balloon, put them in a position to balloon, and then move them when they've ballooned, so that you can still have the buoyancy necessary to be able to balance out the fact that you have so much you refuse to move. So that's really what it is, man. It's finding some balance and knowing that we don't have it, and knowing that if you're trying to make a move, you're just further eating away at it. Especially something that's going to be more so win now, right now. You can't afford to win now, right now. You don't have the immovable assets that are anything less than seeds. You really don't. So that's the truth, man. For those who want the team to be better, you can't get better, fam. You can't get better without hurting the franchise long term. You can't get better without potentially hurting yourself short term. Because as we know, Bron and AD are not great bets to stay healthy. So you do all this stuff that gives away all these young players before they balloon. Guess what you end up having if they roll an ankle? Bron AD rolls an ankle, now you got a bad season any damn way. All that stuff shouldn't have been done. And for the risk that is, it's safer to do exactly what we're doing, which is be very careful not to make any bad decisions with the stuff that we're willing to move for the sake of stuff that we're not willing to move that's not getting better. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.